The air in Prime Bistro Ocean Restaurant always felt heavy with unspoken wishes and quiet judgments. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen tears, scattering soft light onto polished mahogany tables. Each linen napkin was folded with perfect precision, a silent promise of luxury. Here, every meal was an event, every guest a person of importance, or at least, someone who wanted to appear so. Victoria moved through this world like a ghost, a blur of black and white uniform. Her steps were light, practiced, worn down by countless shifts. She carried trays laden with expensive dishes, her tired muscles aching, but her face showed nothing, just a small, polite smile that never quite reached her eyes. Her hands, though, were steady, strong from years of carrying more than just food. They carried the weight of her hopes, her fears, and her endless hard work. She had worked at Prime Bistro Ocean for 5 long years. 5 years of late nights and early mornings. 5 years of making sure everyone else's meals were perfect, while her own life felt like a collection of half-eaten leftovers. Victoria's apartment was small, cold in the winter, and hot in the summer. It was a sharp contrast to the lavish world she moved through every night. Yet, she never complained. She never lost her quiet dignity. She believed in working hard, in doing her best, no matter what life threw at her. That was just who Victoria was. Tonight, a special reservation had arrived. Table 7, the best in the house, overlooking the city lights. It was booked by a man named Hunter Sterling. The name itself seemed to hum with power and money. Everyone in the city knew Hunter Sterling. He was a titan of industry, a financial wizard, a man whose every whim was instantly met. He owned half the buildings downtown and seemed to collect luxury cars like other people collected stamps. His face often appeared in business magazines, always smiling, always confident, always surrounded by the glow of success. Victoria had heard the whispers from the other waitstaff. "Mr. Sterling is here," someone would murmur. "Be extra careful. Don't mess up his order." A nervous energy would ripple through the kitchen. But for Victoria, it was just another table, another customer to serve. Her goal was simply to do her job well, to earn enough to cover rent and medical bills for her younger sister, Clara, who needed constant care. Clara was Victoria's reason, her sun, her entire world. Everything Victoria did, every long hour, every aching muscle, was for Clara. Hunter Sterling arrived exactly at 7 p.m. He wasn't alone. A beautiful woman, dripping in diamonds, hung on his arm. His suit looked like it cost more than Victoria's annual salary. He had a strong, confident stride, and his eyes, though sharp and intelligent, seemed to miss nothing. They scanned the room, not with curiosity, but with an air of ownership. He was not just a guest in Prime Bistro Ocean. He was a king surveying his kingdom. As Victoria approached table 7, her heart gave a strange, unexpected thump. It wasn't nervousness. It was something else. A flicker of memory, like a half-forgotten dream. She looked at the man, Hunter Sterling, really looked at him. The sharp jawline, the way his dark hair swept back from his forehead, the slight curve of his smile when he spoke to his companion. Suddenly, the elegant restaurant, the hushed voices, the clinking of silverware, all faded into a distant buzz. Victoria felt a cold rush, then a wave of heat. It couldn't be. Not him. Not here, in this way. But it was Hunter. Her Hunter, the boy she had known when they were just kids, chasing fireflies in the summer twilight, sharing secrets under the old oak tree. The boy whose dreams had been just as big as hers, but whose path had taken a dramatically different turn. They had been inseparable once, best friends, promising each other they would always look out for one another, no matter what. That promise felt like a whisper from another lifetime. She swallowed hard, pushing down the shock. Her professional smile remained fixed, but inside, a storm raged. The contrast was stark, almost cruel. He sat there, radiating power and ease, while she stood before him, a servant in his presence. The thought hit her like a physical blow. Did he even remember her? Would he recognize the girl who used to braid his hair and patch up his scraped knees? Or was she just another face in the crowd, another uniform in his vast, gleaming world? "Good evening, sir," Victoria said, her voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil within her. "Welcome to Prime Bistro Ocean. Can I get you anything to start with?" Hunter Sterling barely glanced up. His eyes, once so full of mischief and warmth, now held a cool, distant gaze. He was talking to his companion, laughing softly at something she said. He waved a dismissive hand towards Victoria, a gesture that spoke volumes without a single word. It said, "You are not important. You are merely here to serve." Hunter said, "Just water for now, please." His voice was deeper, richer than she remembered. He didn't look at her, not really. His eyes passed over her as if she were part of the furniture, a background detail. The dismissive wave was a punch to Victoria's gut. The memory of their shared past, the innocence of their youth, crashed against the harsh reality of their present. It hurt more than any physical blow could. The woman with him, stunning and sleek, gave Victoria a brief, almost pitying glance, then turned back to Hunter, murmuring something soft into his ear. Victoria felt a blush creeping up her neck, a mix of humiliation and a strange, quiet anger. Victoria felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness for the lost friendship, a burning indignation at his casual disregard, and a quiet strength that hardened her resolve. She was not just a waitress. She was Victoria, a person with her own story, her own struggles, her own dignity, and she would not be dismissed so easily, not even by the powerful Hunter Sterling. She would not let him see how much this moment affected her. She simply nodded, her smile still in place, though it felt like a brittle mask. "Of course, sir. And for you, madam?" she asked the woman, her voice perfectly even. The woman smiled sweetly. "Just sparkling water, thank you." Victoria turned to retrieve the water, her mind racing. This wasn't just another night. This was a moment that felt like a turning point, though she couldn't say why. It felt like destiny, cruel and unyielding, had brought them together again, not as equals, but as strangers on opposite sides of an invisible, uncrossable line. She knew one thing for sure. Her world, already hanging by a thread, was about to become far more complicated. She wondered what she would do. What would you do if you stood face to face with a ghost from your past, someone who had forgotten you, someone who embodied everything you desperately wished for, yet treated you as if you were invisible? Would you speak up? Would you pretend not to know them? Or would you hold on to a secret that could change everything? Victoria was about to find out, and the choice she made would ripple through both their lives, forever changing their fates. This was just the beginning. Victoria walked towards the service station, each step feeling heavier than the last. Her mind was a whirlwind. The crystal glasses felt cold in her hands, a stark contrast to the burning confusion in her heart. She filled them with water, her movements automatic, precise. She kept her back to table 7 for a moment, letting the wave of shock pass. She took a deep breath, telling herself to focus. This was her job. She needed this job for Clara. She couldn't let anything, not even a ghost from her past, mess it up. As she walked back to the table, Victoria tried to remember the Hunter she knew. A boy with bright, curious eyes, always ready for an adventure. He was the one who taught her how to skip stones across the creek. He was the one who comforted her when her puppy got lost. They had shared dreams of building something great together, of changing the world. Now, he had changed the world, at least his own, and she was serving him water. The memory was a bitter taste in her mouth. like medicine she didn't want to swallow. She placed the glasses gently on the table. "Here are your waters, sir." "Madam," Victoria said. Her voice was still calm, a perfect professional tone. She watched Hunter for a flicker of recognition, a slight change in his eyes. Nothing. His gaze remained distant, focused on his companion. He was discussing business, talking about new deals and huge numbers. The woman with him listened closely, her hand resting lightly on his arm. She looked up at Victoria and gave a polite, but empty, smile. Victoria felt like she was invisible. It was as if she were a prop in their expensive dinner scene. A ghost indeed, but one that no one could see. A quiet anger started to simmer beneath her calm surface. It wasn't just for herself, but for the girl she used to be, the one who believed in promises and forever friendships. She remembered a time when Hunter would have jumped up to help her, when he would have laughed with her, not past her. "Are you ready to order, or would you like a few more moments?" Victoria asked, holding out the large, leather-bound menus. She still hoped for something, a small sign, a moment of his attention that wasn't just about ordering food. Hunter finally looked at her, truly looked, but his eyes were still cold, like looking at a stranger. He took a menu from her hand without a word. He opened it, barely glancing at the rich food options. Hunter said, "Darling, what do you feel like tonight? Something light, or are you hungry for the lobster thermidor?" The woman giggled softly. "Oh, Hunter, you know how much I love your choices." She looked at the menu as if it were a fashion catalog. She was beautiful, dressed in a silk gown that shimmered under the chandeliers. Her jewelry sparkled with every small movement. Victoria, standing there in her simple uniform, felt the sharp difference between them. She knew the woman's dress probably cost more than Victoria earned in 3 months. Victoria watched them, her heart feeling heavy. It was clear that Hunter Sterling had completely forgotten her. The boy from her childhood was gone, replaced by this powerful, unseeing man. The idea that she could remind him, could say, "Hunter, it's me," Victoria, felt impossible. The gap between their lives was too wide. She couldn't cross it without looking foolish, without possibly losing her job, and she couldn't risk that, not with Clara needing her. A quiet resolve settled over her. She would serve them. She would do her job perfectly. She would be the best waitress he had ever seen, even if he never knew who she truly was. She would treat him with the same polite distance he showed her. This was her restaurant, her shift, her rules of professionalism. Inside, though, she vowed to herself that she would never forget this moment. And she would never let anyone make her feel invisible again. She cleared her throat softly. "I will be back in a few minutes to take your order, if you need more time," Victoria said. Then she turned and walked away, her back straight, her head held high. She knew this night would be long. It would be hard, but she would get through it. For Clara, Victoria went to the kitchen. The hot, noisy air felt like a shock after the quiet dining room. She grabbed a towel and wiped down a spotless counter. Her hands moved quickly, cleaning, organizing. It was a way to calm her racing thoughts. Her coworker, Maria, a kind woman with tired eyes, noticed Victoria's tense posture. Maria said, "Rough table 7 tonight, huh? Mr. Sterling always thinks he owns the place." Victoria forced a small smile. Victoria said, "Just another table, Maria." She didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to explain the knot in her stomach. How could she explain that the man at table 7 was once her best friend, the boy who promised her the moon? She took a deep breath. She had to focus. She picked up a tray of warm bread rolls and fresh butter. She would go back out there. She would be professional. This was just a job. This was just a customer. It had to be. When she returned to table 7, Hunter and his companion were deep in conversation. They were laughing now, a bright, clear sound that seemed to mock the quiet sadness in Victoria's heart. They finally looked up as Victoria approached, breadbasket in hand. "Are you ready to order, sir?" Victoria asked, her voice steady. Hunter looked at the menu again, his face showing no real interest. Hunter said, "Yes, I'll have the Wagyu steak, medium rare, and the truffle mashed potatoes." He looked at his companion. Hunter said, "And for the lady?" The woman smiled sweetly at Hunter. She looked at Victoria. "I'll have the grilled sea bass, please, and a side salad with vinaigrette dressing on the side." Victoria wrote down the orders with swift, neat strokes. "Excellent choices," Victoria said. "And for drinks, you already have water. Anything else?" Hunter waved his hand again, dismissively. "That's all for now. We'll let you know if we need anything else." His eyes went back to his companion, completely ignoring Victoria as she turned to leave. As Victoria walked away, she heard a snippet of their conversation. The woman was admiring Victor's watch, a glittering piece of metal that probably cost more than Victoria's entire family had ever owned. Hunter said, "It was a gift from my business partner, a celebration of our latest success." He sounded proud, full of self-importance. Victoria pushed through the kitchen doors. She handed the order to the chef, her movements quick and efficient. The kitchen was a blur of activity, steam rising, pans clanging. It was a good place to hide, to lose herself in the demands of work. But even there, the image of Hunter, so wealthy and so unaware, stayed with her. She found a quiet corner and leaned against a cold metal shelf. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to push away the memories. She remembered one time, when she and Hunter were about 10, they had found a lost bird with a broken wing. They spent days nursing it back to health. Hunter had been so gentle, so caring. He had cried when the bird finally flew away. That boy, the one with the soft heart, where was he now? Had success hardened him so completely? Had he forgotten the value of small, simple things, of kindness, of friendship? A wave of bitterness washed over her. It wasn't fair. She had worked just as hard, perhaps harder, but luck, opportunity, and perhaps birth had taken them on such different paths. She wondered if she should say something, anything, a single word that would remind him. But what good would it do? Would it make him feel bad? Or would it just make her look desperate, foolish? No, she decided. She would not let him see her hurt. She would not let him have that power. She would simply do her job. She would serve him and his companion with perfect grace. She would be invisible, if that was what he wanted. But she would be invisible with her head held high. And she would carry the memory of the boy he once was, even if he no longer carried the memory of her. The night was far from over, and fate, as it often does, had a few more unexpected turns waiting for them both. Victoria took a deep breath, steeling herself. She picked up a pitcher of water and a basket of fresh bread. It was time to return to the front, to table 7, to Hunter, the man who had forgotten her, and the man whose life she was now, quite literally, serving. The next hour passed in a blur for Victoria. She moved between tables, refilling drinks, clearing plates, and taking new orders. Each time she passed table 7, she felt a strange mix of sadness and anger. Hunter and his companion seemed to be having a wonderful time. They laughed, they toasted, they whispered secrets. They looked like they belonged in a glossy magazine, far removed from the struggles of the real world. Victoria, meanwhile, thought about her sister, Clara. Clara was at home, watched by their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez. Clara's cough had been worse lately. The thought gnawed at Victoria. She needed to make sure Clara got her new medicine, a very expensive one. That was why Victoria worked so hard, why she put up with everything. For Clara, she would endure anything. When the main courses were ready, Victoria carefully carried the heavy tray. The aroma of steak and sea bass filled the air. She approached table 7, her movements smooth and practiced. She placed Hunter's steak in front of him, then the sea bass for his companion. Victoria said, "Enjoy your meal, sir, madam." Hunter barely nodded, already cutting into his steak. The woman smiled faintly, picking up her fork. Victoria stood there for a moment, waiting, hoping. Would he ask how everything was? Would he offer a polite word? No, he just ate. As Victoria turned to leave, a small, dark red stain on the white tablecloth caught her eye. It was from the wine Hunter's companion had accidentally spilled earlier. Victoria had missed it, a rare mistake in her careful work. She felt a flush of embarrassment. She quickly reached for her small cleaning cloth, which she always carried in her apron pocket. Just as her fingers touched the stain, Hunter spoke. His voice was sharper now, less polite, perhaps because he had drunk some wine. Hunter said, "Excuse me, waitress." Victoria froze. "Yes, sir?" Victoria asked, turning to face him. Hunter pointed a finger at the small stain. "What is this? This is unacceptable. This restaurant is supposed to be top tier. I expect perfection." His voice was low, but carried a clear tone of annoyance. The woman beside him looked embarrassed, a slight blush on her cheeks. "Oh, Hunter, it was just a tiny spill," she said softly. "It's nothing." But Hunter wasn't listening to her. He was looking straight at Victoria, his eyes cold and critical. "You missed this," Hunter said. "Are you even paying attention? This table should be spotless." Victoria's heart sank. She had made a mistake, a small one, but in this world of perfection, it felt like a huge error. She wanted to explain, to apologize, but the words caught in her throat. The anger she had been holding back started to rise. How could he speak to her like this? How could he, the boy who once shared all his candy with her, be so cruel, so dismissive? "I am very sorry, sir," Victoria said, her voice strained but steady. She quickly wiped the stain away. "It won't happen again." Hunter leaned back in his chair, a look of disapproval on his face. Hunter said, "See that it doesn't. My standards are very high." He then turned his attention back to his meal, as if Victoria had vanished. The woman offered a small, apologetic shrug to Victoria, but said nothing. Victoria felt a burning sensation behind her eyes. It was not just shame, it was humiliation, and it was deeply personal. This wasn't just a boss scolding an employee. This was Hunter, treating her like dirt. She walked away, her hands trembling slightly. She hurried into the kitchen, a familiar refuge. Maria saw her face. Maria said, "What happened, Victoria? You look upset." Victoria shook her head, unable to speak, afraid her voice would crack. She just couldn't. It was too much. The injustice, the forgotten friendship, the harsh words from the very person who used to be her world. It was a heavy weight. She focused on deep breaths, trying to regain her composure. She needed to be strong. She had to be strong. For Clara, the rest of the meal continued with Victoria performing her duties with stiff perfection. Every plate was placed just right. Every glass was refilled without a sound. She moved with quiet determination, a warrior in her own small battle. Hunter and his companion finished their dinner, lingering over coffee and dessert. Victoria served them, her face a mask. She listened to their casual chatter about travel plans and business trips, each word a reminder of the vast distance between their lives. Then, Hunter motioned for the check. This was it. The end of the shift, at least for this table. Victoria grabbed the bill folder, her hands still a little shaky. She had served him for hours, taken his dismissive comments, been treated like a nobody. And still, he hadn't recognized her. Not even a glimmer. The final sting. She wondered if she would ever truly escape the shadows of her past, or if she was doomed to forever serve the very people who had forgotten her. But a strange idea sparked within her. a small, defiant thought. A risk she might just have to take. Victoria brought the bill to table 7. The leather folder felt surprisingly light in her hands. She placed it gently in front of Hunter. She stood back, waiting. This was the moment, the final transaction. She wondered if he would simply sign the credit card slip, perhaps leave a small tip, and then walk out of her life forever. Just another rich man who never truly saw her. Hunter opened the folder. He glanced at the total, a sum that could cover Victoria's rent for months. He pulled out his credit card, a sleek black card that screamed unlimited funds. He handed it to Victoria. Victoria took the card. Her fingers brushed his, a fleeting touch that meant nothing to him, but sent a shiver down her spine. The contrast was so sharp. His confident, powerful hand, her tired, worn one. As she turned to walk to the payment terminal, the idea, the defiant thought, grew stronger. It felt like a small, burning ember in her chest. She went to the terminal, her hands moved over the machine, punching in the numbers, swiping the card. The machine hummed, processed, and printed the receipt. She tore off the customer copy and placed it back in the folder. But before closing it, she hesitated. She looked at the empty space where the tip amount would go. She looked at the line for Hunter's signature. And then, slowly, carefully, Victoria took out a pen. Not the restaurant's pen, but her own small, simple pen, one she always carried. On the back of the receipt, in a tiny corner, almost hidden, she wrote a single word. A word that only he would recognize. A word that only they had shared. The word was fireflies. It was a code word from their childhood. A secret name for their hidden spot by the creek, where they would spend hours dreaming, making promises. It was a word that meant friendship, trust, and the innocent belief that they would always be together. It was a gamble, a huge, scary gamble. What if he still didn't remember? What if he thought she was crazy? What if he reported her to the manager? She could lose her job. But the thought of him walking away, never knowing, never even having a chance to remember, was unbearable. With her heart pounding, Victoria walked back to table 7. She placed the folder back in front of Hunter. "Here is your receipt, sir," Victoria said, her voice a little softer than before, betraying a hint of the inner turmoil she felt. "And your card." Hunter took the folder. He glanced at the receipt, then picked up the pen to sign. His eyes swept over the paper, ready to scrawl his signature. His companion was talking about something else, oblivious. Then, just as his pen hovered over the signature line, his eyes caught the small, handwritten word in the corner. Fireflies. His hand froze. His brow furrowed slightly. He picked up the receipt, turning it over, holding it closer to his face. He looked at the word again. Then he looked at Victoria. This time, his gaze was different. It wasn't the cold, dismissive look she had endured all night. It was a look of confusion, then surprise. A flicker of something much older, much deeper, began to bloom in his eyes. Recognition. Slow, dawning recognition. Hunter's eyes widened. He looked from the word on the receipt to Victoria's face, really seeing her now. He saw the tired lines around her eyes, the familiar curve of her smile, the quiet strength that still shone through. His mouth opened slightly. The laughter died on his companion's lips. She looked at Hunter, then at Victoria, puzzled. A long, silent moment hung in the air. The sounds of the restaurant faded again. It was just them. Victoria stood still, her heart thumping, waiting for his reaction. Had she made a huge mistake? Or had she finally reached through the layers of wealth and forgetfulness to the boy he once was? The answer, she knew, would change everything. For both of them. Hunter stared at Victoria. His perfect, calm face crumpled slightly. The confident mask fell away, replaced by a look of utter shock, then deep thought. His eyes, now wide and searching, scanned her face, her hair, her uniform. It was as if he was seeing her for the very first time, not as a waitress, but as a person, a memory. He swallowed hard. Hunter said, "Victoria? Is that, is that really you?" His voice was a bare whisper, almost lost in the soft restaurant noise. It was a voice full of disbelief, a voice that carried the weight of years. His companion, seeing his sudden change, looked from Hunter to Victoria with confused eyes. "Hunter, darling, what is it?" she asked, her voice light and curious. Hunter didn't hear her. His gaze was fixed on Victoria. He seemed lost in thought, traveling back in time. Victoria simply nodded, a small, tired smile finally reaching her eyes. She felt a flood of relief, mixed with a strange sadness. He remembered. After all these years, after all this distance, he remembered. Hunter finally signed the receipt, his hand shaking. Slightly. He didn't write a tip amount. He just pushed the folder back towards Victoria. His eyes never left hers. Hunter said, I can't believe it." After all this time, he looked around, as if suddenly aware of their surroundings. "We need to talk. Can you step away for a moment? When you're off duty?" Victoria hesitated. Her shift wasn't over for another hour. But the urgency in his voice was clear. She felt her manager's eyes on her, from across the room. She knew she shouldn't, but something deep inside her urged her to take the chance. This was Hunter. This was a piece of her past, a lost part of herself. Victoria said, "My shift ends in an hour, sir." She spoke the word, sir, with a subtle emphasis, a quiet reminder of their current roles. Hunter nodded, understanding. "Good. Wait for me outside, by the service entrance. Please." His voice held a pleading tone, something she hadn't heard from him all night. He looked like a man who had just seen a ghost, a truly meaningful ghost. His companion looked quite annoyed now. "Hunter, what is going on?" she asked, her voice sharper. "Who is this woman?" Hunter turned to her, a hint of his old warmth returning, but it was tinged with confusion. Hunter said, "Chloe, this is an old friend. From my childhood. I haven't seen her in decades." He tried to smile, but it looked forced. "A very, very old friend." Chloe's eyes narrowed as she looked at Victoria, then back at Hunter. Her smile was gone. A tension filled the air. Victoria felt like an intruder in their world, even though she was the one who had been standing there, serving them, all night. Victoria simply nodded to Hunter, a gesture that spoke volumes. She picked up the folder and the credit card, then turned and walked away. She didn't look back. She needed to process this. He remembered. He wanted to talk. What did that even mean? What could they possibly say to each other after all this time? After such different lives? She went to the payment terminal, processed the charge, and gave the card back to the hostess to return to table 7. Her hands were still shaking. The manager, Mr. Henderson, approached her, his face stern. "Mr. Henderson said, Victoria, is everything all right at table 7? Mr. Sterling seems distracted." Victoria tried to compose herself. "Everything is fine, Mr. Henderson," Victoria said. "They have paid and are just finishing their drinks." She kept her voice even, hoping he wouldn't notice her racing heart. Mr. Henderson nodded, still looking at her with a hint of suspicion. "Very well. Finish up your duties. You're off in an hour." Victoria nodded. 1 hour? 1 hour until she faced Hunter Sterling, not as a waitress and a customer, but as Victoria and Hunter. The thought was both terrifying and exciting. What secrets would be revealed? What regrets? And what would come next? She didn't know, but she knew her life was about to take an unexpected turn, one she never could have imagined when she started her shift that night. The quiet, hidden world of Prime Bistro Ocean was about to witness a reunion that would change everything. The next hour felt like an eternity and a blink of an eye all at once. Victoria moved through her final duties, clearing tables, helping other waitstaff, but her mind was elsewhere. It was outside, by the service entrance, waiting for Hunter. The image of his shocked face, the dawning recognition in his eyes, played over and over in her head. A part of her was scared, wondering if she had done the right thing. Another part, a deeper, braver part, felt a thrilling sense of anticipation. Finally, her shift ended. Victoria quickly changed out of her uniform into her simple, worn street clothes. She felt like a different person without the black and white fabric, more like herself. She walked out the service exit, her heart beating fast. The cool night air hit her face, a welcome change from the stuffy restaurant. Hunter was there, standing by a sleek black luxury car. He was alone. His companion, Chloe, was nowhere to be seen. He was leaning against the car, looking out at the city, a thoughtful expression on his face. When he saw Victoria, he straightened up. His eyes, usually so sharp and confident, held a mixture of apology and eagerness. Hunter said, "Victoria, I can't believe it's really you." He walked towards her, slowly, as if unsure how close to get. You look exactly the same." It was a kind lie, but a kind lie nonetheless. Years of hard work had left their marks on Victoria, etched around her eyes and on her hands. Victoria smiled, a real smile this time, not the forced one from her job. Victoria said, "And you, Hunter, you look, well, you've done very well for yourself." Her gaze swept over his expensive suit, his fancy car. The words held a hint of her own difficult journey, a quiet acknowledgement of the vast differences in their lives. Hunter sighed, a deep, heavy sound. Hunter said, "I know, and I'm so sorry, Victoria. I truly didn't recognize you. I feel like a complete fool. How could I have been so blind?" He ran a hand through his hair, looking truly upset. "You've been serving me all night, and I treated you like a stranger. Worse, like a piece of furniture." Victoria just looked at him. The apology was real. The regret in his eyes was clear. It softened some of the anger she had felt all night. Victoria said, "It's all right, Hunter. Life takes us down different paths. People change." Hunter said, "But I shouldn't have forgotten you." "Not you, Victoria. Not after everything. The fireflies." That word, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It brought back so many memories. He looked at her, his eyes serious. "What happened to you? Where have you been? Why are you working here?" He waved a hand vaguely towards the restaurant, then quickly pulled it back, as if realizing how rude it sounded. Victoria took a deep breath. She knew this conversation would be hard. "A lot has happened, Hunter," Victoria said. "Life isn't always fair. My parents passed away when I was young. I've been taking care of my younger sister, Clara, ever since." She paused, her voice growing soft. "She's not well. She needs constant care and expensive medicine." Hunter's face fell. He looked truly sad. Hunter said, "Oh, Victoria, I had no idea. I am so terribly sorry to hear that. Your parents, and Clara. Is there anything I can do?" Victoria looked at him, surprised by the sudden offer. A part of her wanted to lash out, to tell him that he could have done something years ago. But another part, the practical part, knew that this might be her only chance. Her only chance for Clara. "I don't know, Hunter," Victoria said, her voice quiet. I just need to make sure Clara is okay. That's all I care about." Hunter stepped closer. He reached out, gently touching her arm. His touch was warm, comforting. It was the first human touch she had received from him all night. Hunter said, "Victoria, please, let me help. We were best friends. Family, almost. I owe you so much." He looked around the empty street. "This is no place to talk. Can we go somewhere? Get some coffee? Or my place? It's quieter there. Victoria looked at his hand on her arm. She remembered the boy who held her hand when they were scared. The boy who shared his deepest fears with her. This wealthy, powerful man was still, in some small way, that boy. And he was offering help. Real help. It was a tempting, terrifying offer. Her future, and Clara's, hung in the balance. She had to decide. And she had to decide now. What would she say? What would she do? Victoria looked at Hunter's hand on her arm, then up at his earnest face. The city lights blurred around them. Her mind raced. His apartment, or coffee. Her instinct screamed caution. She barely knew this Hunter. The boy she knew was long gone, replaced by a man who had forgotten her for decades. But the desperation for Clara's sake was stronger than her fear. This was an opportunity she couldn't afford to ignore. Victoria said, "Coffee is fine, Hunter. Somewhere public." Her voice was firm, setting a clear boundary. She needed to protect herself and Clara from any unknown dangers. Hunter understood. He immediately dropped his hand, a look of respect on his face. Hunter said, "Of course, Victoria. My apologies. There's a quiet cafe just a few blocks from here. It should still be open." He gestured towards his car. "Allow me to drive you." Victoria hesitated for a split second, then nodded. Getting into his expensive car felt like stepping into another world. The leather seats were soft, the air was cool, and the silence was deep. It was so different from the noisy bus rides she usually took home. As Hunter drove, the city lights streamed past the windows, making her feel like a character in a movie, not just a tired waitress. They arrived at a small, elegant cafe. It was nearly empty, just a few scattered patrons lost in their own late-night thoughts. They chose a corner table, a bit hidden, where they could talk freely. The waitress, a young woman with a kind smile, took their orders, 2 black coffees. Victoria felt a pang of sympathy for her, recognizing the same tired professionalism she herself wore. When the coffee arrived, warm and comforting, a different kind of silence settled between them. It was a silence filled with unspoken history, with years of separate lives. Hunter broke the quiet. Hunter said, "Victoria, I still can't get over this. All these years, I always wondered what happened to you. After your parents, well, after they moved away, I lost track. My family moved a few years later, and then life just took over." He looked down at his coffee, stirring it slowly. "I tried to find you for a while, but then, with business and traveling, I just got caught up." His words sounded like an excuse, and he knew it. Victoria listened, her expression unreadable. She understood that life could sweep people away. But it still hurt that she was the one who remembered everything, while he had clearly moved on so completely. Victoria said, "It was hard, Hunter. After my parents died, Clara and I were alone. I had to grow up fast. I worked every job I could find. And Clara, she got sick a few years ago. A rare blood disease. The treatments are very expensive." Her voice was soft, laced with a raw vulnerability. Hunter looked up, his eyes full of sympathy. Hunter said, "I am so incredibly sorry, Victoria. Truly, if I had known, I would have—" He stopped, searching for words. "I would have helped. I swear it. You know I would have." Victoria met his gaze. Did she know? The boy Hunter? Yes. The man Hunter Sterling? She wasn't so sure, but his sincerity now felt real. Victoria said, "It's okay, Hunter. I've managed. We've managed." Hunter shook his head slowly. Hunter said, "No, it's not okay. You shouldn't have had to manage all this alone. We were a team, remember? You always looked out for me, helped me with my homework, protected me from the older kids." He gave a small, sad smile. You were always the stronger one, Victoria. He paused, then leaned forward, his voice earnest. Hunter said, Victoria, I owe you so much. Let me help you now. Please. For Clara, what do you need? Money for her treatments? A better place to live? Tell me. Anything. I mean it. Victoria stared into her coffee cup. The offer was huge, life-changing. It was everything she had secretly, desperately wished for. But it was also coming from a stranger who shared a past with her. A past that had clearly been less important to him than to her. Could she trust this new Hunter? Could she accept such a grand gesture from a man who had forgotten her until a single word sparked a memory? The answer would determine her future. And Clara's? This was the moment of truth. What would Victoria say? And what unexpected conditions would come with Hunter's generous offer? The conversation was far from over, and its outcome held the power to reshape both their destinies. Victoria looked at Hunter, searching his eyes for any hint of a trick, any sign that this was not real. But she found only genuine concern and a deep sense of regret. The words, anything, I mean it, echoed in her mind. This wasn't just about money. It was about the possibility of a normal life for Clara, a life without constant fear and struggle. Victoria took a shaky breath. Victoria said, Hunter, I appreciate your offer, more than you know. Her voice was soft, fragile, but I can't just take your money. It feels wrong. We haven't seen each other in so long, and you didn't even recognize me tonight. The last part of her sentence came out with a hint of the hurt she still felt. Hunter flinched. Hunter said, You're right, and I deserve that. My forgetfulness is no excuse. But please, Victoria, don't let my past stupidity stop you from getting the help you need. Especially for Clara. He leaned forward, his voice serious. Think of it not as charity, but as me trying to make things right. A debt from a past life. You were always there for me. He paused, then added, Hunter said, and I need your help, too, Victoria. More than you think. Victoria looked at him, surprised. Your help? Hunter, you're a billionaire. What could you possibly need from me? Victoria asked, genuinely puzzled. Hunter sighed, and a shadow crossed his face. He looked out the cafe window, into the empty night street. Hunter said, My life isn't as perfect as it seems, Victoria. The woman tonight, Chloe, she's my fiancée. Or she was, until a few hours ago. Victoria's eyes widened. What happened? Victoria asked. Hunter looked back at her, a wry, sad smile on his lips. Hunter said, She's not the person I thought she was. Tonight, after you left the table, she started complaining. About you. About your bad service. About the stain on the tablecloth. About how you looked at her funny. She even suggested I complain to your manager and get you fired. Victoria gasped softly. The quiet anger she had suppressed all night resurfaced. Hunter continued, his voice low and filled with disappointment. Hunter said, It wasn't just that. It was the way she spoke about people she considered below her. The lack of kindness. It made me realize she's changed. Or maybe I never really saw her clearly. And then, when I told her you were my old friend, she was furious. She said I was embarrassing her, talking to a waitress. He shook his head. That was the last straw, Victoria. I ended it. Right there, in the restaurant, after you left. She stormed out. Victoria was stunned. This was an unexpected turn. The powerful Hunter Sterling, breaking off an engagement over her. It was unbelievable. Hunter looked at her, his expression raw. Hunter said, Seeing you tonight, Victoria, seeing your quiet strength, your dignity, even after I treated you so badly, it reminded me of what's truly important. It reminded me of us, of who I used to be, the person I want to be again. He reached across the table, taking her hand gently. Hunter said, Victoria, I don't just want to help Clara. I want to help you. And I want you to help me. Help me remember what matters. Help me rebuild my life, not just with money, but with genuine connection, with kindness. I need a reminder of what real friendship looks like. Victoria looked at his hand holding hers. The warmth of his touch was a stark contrast to the cold indifference of earlier tonight. His words were a balm to her long-aching heart. He wasn't just offering money. He was offering a chance at a different kind of life, a chance to reconnect with a lost part of herself. But also, a chance to help him. The situation was complex. He had hurt her, forgotten her. But now, he was asking for her help, acknowledging his mistakes, and offering an incredibly generous hand to Clara. Victoria weighed the pros and cons. The risks were still there, but the potential rewards, especially for Clara, were immense. Victoria looked into his eyes, a silent agreement passing between them. Victoria said, "Hunter, I will help you. And if you're serious about Clara, then yes, we need help." Her voice was still quiet, but now it held a new firmness, a sense of purpose. Hunter smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reached his eyes, finally resembling the boy she knew. Hunter said, "Thank you, Victoria, thank you." He squeezed her hand gently. "This is just the beginning. I promise you, things are going to change. For both of us." Victoria knew this was true. This one night, sparked by a single, hidden word, had opened a door to a future she never thought possible. A future where forgotten friendships could be reborn, and unexpected turns could lead to surprising new paths. The fates of Hunter Sterling and Victoria, the waitress, were now intertwined, about to unfold in ways neither of them could have ever predicted. The long journey from fireflies to fortune had come full circle, bringing them together for an entirely new chapter. What would this new friendship bring, and what challenges would they face together? Only time would tell. The next morning, Victoria woke up in her small apartment, the events of the previous night feeling like a vivid dream. The expensive coffee, Hunter's genuine regret, the offer of help, and his shocking breakup with his fiancée, it all swirled in her head. She looked at Clara, sleeping peacefully in her bed, her small face pale. A renewed sense of hope, mixed with fear, filled Victoria. This wasn't a dream, it was real. A few hours later, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Victoria answered carefully. Hunter said, "Victoria? It's Hunter. I hope I'm not calling too early." His voice was warm, much different from the distant tone he'd used. In the restaurant, Victoria said, "No, Hunter. I'm awake." Hunter said, "Good. I've already made some calls. I have an appointment for Clara this afternoon with one of the best specialists in the country, Dr. Anya Sharma. Her office will call you shortly with the details. And I've arranged for a car to pick you both up." Victoria gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Hunter, that's incredible. Thank you." Tears pricked at her eyes. "This was happening so fast," Hunter said. "Don't thank me yet. This is just the start. Also, about your job. I called Mr. Henderson at Prime Bistro Ocean. I told him you wouldn't be coming in anymore." Victoria's heart leaped into her throat. "What? Hunter, you can't just—" Hunter interrupted her, his voice firm but kind. Hunter said, "Victoria, you need to focus on Clara. And on yourself. You've worked yourself to the bone for years. It's time for a change. I've got another offer for you." Victoria was speechless. "Another offer?" Hunter said, "Yes. I need someone I can trust, someone with integrity and a strong work ethic, someone who reminds me of what's important. I want you to be my personal assistant. The pay will be more than enough to cover Clara's medical needs and give you both a comfortable life. Plus, it will allow you flexibility for Clara's appointments and care." Victoria sat down heavily on her worn sofa. Her mind reeled. From Waitress to Billionaire's personal assistant, it was a leap she couldn't have imagined. It was a chance to escape the endless struggle, to give Clara the best care possible. But it also meant stepping into a world she knew nothing about, working closely with a man who was both a ghost from her past and a powerful stranger. Victoria said, "Hunter, I don't know anything about being a personal assistant for someone like you." Hunter chuckled softly. Hunter said, "Don't worry about that. I'll teach you. Or rather, you'll teach me. Perhaps. I need someone to help me stay grounded, to remind me of the real world. Someone who isn't afraid to tell me when I'm being a fool." He paused. Hunter said, "And I need a friend, Victoria. A real friend." His words struck a chord deep within her. He wasn't just offering a job, he was offering a chance at a renewed friendship, a partnership built on their shared past and his newfound appreciation for her character. This was more than just a job. It was a promise. Victoria took a moment, looking at Clara's sleeping form. This was for Clara. This was for their future. Victoria said, "Okay, Hunter. I'll do it. I'll be your personal assistant." A wave of relief washed over Hunter's voice. Hunter said, "Excellent. Welcome aboard, Victoria. I'll send over the details for today and your new role. Get ready, because things are about to get very interesting." Victoria hung up the phone, still trembling slightly. Her life, which had been a slow, uphill battle, had suddenly changed direction, surging forward like a powerful river. She thought about Mr. Henderson and the other waitstaff at Prime Bistro Ocean. They would be shocked. And Chloe, well, Chloe would be furious. But none of that mattered. What mattered was Clara, and the unexpected turn of fate that had brought Hunter back into her life. This was a new chapter, not just for her and Clara, but for Hunter too. He was seeking redemption, a return to the values they once shared. And Victoria, with her quiet strength and unwavering integrity, was exactly the person to help him find it. The journey ahead would be filled with new challenges and opportunities, a testament to the enduring power of kindness, respect, and a single, well-placed word: fireflies. The days that followed were a whirlwind of change. Clara received the best medical care. Doctors at a top hospital reviewed her case. New treatments started right away, giving Clara and Victoria fresh hope. Victoria moved into a beautiful new apartment, bright and spacious, much closer to the hospital. No more cold nights or noisy neighbors. Victoria started her new role as Hunter's personal assistant. It was challenging, but also rewarding. She helped him manage his busy schedule. More importantly, she reminded him of the human side of business, of kindness and fairness. She encouraged him to start a charity for children with rare diseases, named the Firefly Foundation. Hunter's business partners, once worried about his sudden change, soon saw the positive impact Victoria had on him. His work became more thoughtful, more about making a true difference. Hunter often said, "Victoria, you were right. You were always the stronger one." Their friendship grew deeper, stronger than ever. They often shared coffee, talking for hours about their lives, their dreams. Hunter never forgot their past again. And Victoria never forgot how one hidden word, fireflies, had opened a door to a new life, not just for her and Clara, but for Hunter too. A life where old friendships could bloom again, and justice, in its own unexpected way, could always find a path. If you found Victoria's journey from struggle to triumph inspiring, please like this video, share it with a friend who needs a reminder that kindness and integrity can change everything, and subscribe to our channel for more stories of justice, character, and incredible comebacks. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. What would you have done in Victoria's shoes when faced with Hunter in the restaurant? Would you have spoken up or stayed silent? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you.